I am absolutely fascinated by quarterback strategy in Dynasty Superflex startups this offseason. I think it is literally the key to unlocking the perfect startup draft for you. So if you guys have a startup coming up, definitely pay attention to this in 2025. The quarterback landscape is different than anything that I have seen over the last 4 or 5 years of covering Dynasty Fantasy Football. In 2025, the first 22 quarterbacks off the board in startups are either one, franchise quarterbacks who have big contracts and make a lot of money, or two, first-round quarterbacks on rookie deals that the market presumably believes in because they're being valued as such. So here's some numbers to back up why I think the quarterback landscape is one of the keys to unlocking your startups. QB22 in ADP right now is Tua Tagovailoa. He is off the board by pick 72 in startups according to Adeko FF's Dynasty Data Labs ADP calculator. Pick 96 was where QB22 was off the board last year. Pick 99 the year before that. Pick 110 the year before that. And pick 96 again the year before that. So we're talking about the top, 22 quarterbacks or so. And if you're in a 10-man league, that means every team would have two quarterbacks. In a 12-man league, nearly every team would have quarterbacks. There are 27 quarterbacks total off the board by pick 110 in Superflex 12-man leagues. If you exclude incoming rookies too, Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, etc., not including those guys, there are 27 quarterbacks off the board by pick 110, and there's 25 quarterbacks, according to Keep Trade Cut, that are valued for a 2025, 6, or 7 late first-round pick or more. So you're talking about really, really valuable quarterback market on the open market right now. We had 22 quarterbacks the previous year, 21, 22, 24 in the previous years of startups. So when we're talking about the quarterback landscape, are we overvaluing the depth of the position? Is the quarterback market finally stabilizing and we've actually found, 26, 27 guys in real life to play starting quarterback roles for NFL teams? Or is this just the result of us getting 6 first-round quarterbacks last year in the draft who we all believe in to varying degrees? I think there's Caleb Williams stands out there. There's Drake May stands out there. There's Jaden Daniels, of course, everyone believes in him. Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix. All of those guys have, seemingly increase the validity of the quarterback depth because we got 6 guys that the market believes in. Or are we overvaluing some of these quarterbacks? Will the market repeat itself? 5 to 8 NFL franchises a year from now are looking for a solution at this position. I think the answer is probably yes. We have more quarterbacks than usual, and the market has gotten a little bit saturated with decent quarterback options, but also the law of averages probably will play itself out to some degree. And the law of averages at this position dictates that 2 years from now, we're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that guy was quarterback 14 in ADP or whatever. So 5 to 8 NFL franchises seemingly every offseason look at their position, reevaluate their position, and they won't be thrilled with how 2025 went. That's just how the NFL works. But we're going to venture into the data here the last 4 years because I think this is why it's so important to look at this stuff and think about, hey, maybe the quarterback position is deeper than usual, or maybe we're overvaluing it. So what I'm calling this area is the quarterback dead zone. You guys have heard the RB dead zone. The quarterback dead zone in Superflex rookie drafts is about quarterback 15 to 30. And the reason I've chosen this range is a couple of principles. A, in redraft fantasy, one quarterback leagues, we know that quarterback 2 production is pretty replaceable, right? It's why people stream matchups and they go late round quarterback in regular redraft leagues. I wanted to find out if the same is true kind of for QB2 value, not necessarily production, but value on the open market in Superflex. So we're going to look at the last couple of years of data. The state of real life quarterbacking in the NFL is also exponential. For example, the best 5 quarterbacks in the league, Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, those guys are pretty significantly better than quarterback 6 to 10 in the league. And then quarterback 6 to 10 are pretty significantly better than quarterback 10 to 15, so on and so forth. And then it kind of plateaus out around 20 to 25 quarterbacks around the NFL being considered starter caliber quarterbacks, above average starting quarterbacks in the league. So what we want to know as dynasty players is this: if we're rostering quarterbacks like this, or if we're drafting them in startups, what archetypes of like quarterback 15 to 30 should we be avoiding because they might lose their jobs, or they're going to lose value, or they're not going to give us the production that they want, whatever, and which ones should we actually target? Because there are guys that come out of this range that hit every single year. So per Adeko FF, again, Dynasty Data Lab is where I got a lot of this information. Check it out. Here's the state of quarterback 15 to 30 from January to May. That's the kind of timeline that we're looking for. So around the end of the season, free agency, NFL draft stuff. This is 2024's quarterback 15 to 30. You guys can see it on the screen there. Quarterback 15 to 30 of 2023, 2022, and then 2021. I have collected all of these quarterbacks into a table and found the following figures. And I think these can be really, descriptive on how we want to handle this range. Here are last year's quarterbacks as an example. What was their rank in January to May of 2024? What is it a year later, aka now? And why did they gain value? Why did they lose value over the course of a calendar year? And I also have like contract status and did they change teams for some context for some of these players. I did that for every year from 24, 23, 22, and 21. And a whopping 49 of 64 quarterbacks lost ADP, with 38 or more quarterbacks losing at least 5 spots of ADP. So we're talking about a range that is relatively fragile. The NFL, like I said, 20 to 24 teams are usually satisfied with their quarterback position a calendar year after they've upgraded, or they just have good quarterbacks in place. And a lot of the league is usually looking to maybe make long-term upgrades, short-term upgrades, whatever the case is. So as you guys can see from this results table, you can see that there was 76.6% of these quarterbacks that lost ADP. The reason for that was usually job security. They lost their job outright. They had competition added. Their contract situation changed, whatever the case is. Lost significant ADP. Again, the primary reason for that being job security, and it was usually that they lost their job altogether if they lost significant ADP. At quarterback, the NFL just stands for not for long, right? As long as you're performing on the NFL stage, regardless of what your team has invested into you, you can hold a starting job down. But if you're making, let's say, bridge quarterback money, or you were a second-round quarterback like Will Levis, not a first-round quarterback, your team really isn't that committed to you contractually. The second you're not playing well, quarterbacks can kind of get overlooked. Beware of quarterbacks with little team investment in this range, because it's pretty simple. For quarterbacks like this, you either perform or your team is going to replace you at certain points in time. So guys who are making starter money, who have a down season, but the team is kind of committed financially or draft capital wise to them, those guys can hold their value a little bit better, because it's just one blip on the radar type of season, right? Bryce Young, for example, because he was the first overall pick in the draft, we were a little bit more lenient with him on the open market, even though it looked pretty grim for a second there. And then the second he started playing well again, we're ready to kind of vault him all the way back up there because of the team investment that he had. So you can't do that for multiple years, but if you have a little bit of a struggle here and there and you make good money, or you're a high draft pick, that can kind of go to serve that you're going to hold your value. So what we want if we draft, say, quarterback 21 and ADP 2, is if there are quarterback 2, quarterback 3 on our Superflex roster, is that they at least maintain their value, give us decent production, and hopefully they increase in value. They go from quarterback 21 this year to quarterback 13 in next year's ADP. Think of, Baker Mayfield, for example, was about quarterback 21 last year, and now he's up near quarterback 15. These were the guys that did that. 23.4% of the time, they, barely lost any ADP, maintained their value, or gained a little bit. Last year, you have guys like Jared Goff, Bryce Young, Geno Smith, Derek Carr, and Russell Wilson. They're now worth out at or about what they were worth last year. Lots of those guys veterans, like I said, making pretty decent money. Or Bryce Young, because he lost a little bit of value, he ended up kind of recouping that value later on in the season due to performance issues. In this range, it was either you had a good fantasy season, which means you gained or maintained your value, or you had a bad fantasy season and you lost a little bit of value, and it's now raising some job security question marks. So looking at the big hits, again, ideally, if you draft quarterback 21 or whatever, you want a quarterback 1 out of it. You want the guy to be just super undervalued, and he, rises in a lot of dynasty value. Only 10.9% of the time did this happen in this range. I think generally we're pretty good at valuing these guys appropriately. Sometimes they slip through the cracks. You can see Baker Mayfield raised a lot in value last year, Jordan Love and Brock Purdy the year before that, Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, and Jared Goff the year before that. So these guys were all on starter contracts, or they were on rookie deals. In most cases, we had questions about their talent level, and they had great years because their teams overperformed expectations. If you think of Jared Goff in 2022, for example, the Lions ended up being a lot better than we thought, and they post QB1 numbers as a result. So every year since 2021, at least 8 quarterbacks, 8 of the 16 in that range, lost 5 or more spots of value. And every year, at least 5 to 6 quarterbacks fell out of the top 30 entirely. Ergo, they probably lost their jobs. Let's examine what quarterbacks in 2025 startup drafts could be at risk of losing value, and maybe some that actually could be at risk of gaining value here. So at the risk of falling out of the top 30 in general. This is something that you really should pay attention to if you guys are doing startup drafts right now, because I know the feeling in Superflex drafts where you only have Kyler Murray on your roster and it's round 9 and you have no other quarterbacks and you're like, okay, that's no problem. I'll just grab Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson or Anthony Richardson or Derek Carr because they're going to just be QB2s for me or whatever the case is. The dangerous thing here is those guys that I just mentioned, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Anthony Richardson, and Derek Carr, they would be, in my estimation, the most likely guys, because 5 to 6 of these dudes fall out of the top 30 entirely every year, to fall out of the top 30 entirely. Like, I think it's possible that Russ, Rodgers, Derek Carr, those guys don't start for an NFL team this time next year. With Sam Darnold, with Geno Smith, with Matthew Stafford due to age, maybe Tua Tagovailoa due to injury, those guys could be the candidates to be in hot water for their starting job this time next year. Again, Darnold, we don't really know if he's a proven commodity. Geno Smith switched teams and he's a veteran, which is kind of a red flag on this kind of study that I did. And then Matthew Stafford is, of course, older. He could deal with injuries. He could retire. Maybe Tua Tagovailoa as well, given the injury history that he has. So I'm just pointing out some guys that maybe you want to be wary of when you're in a startup draft. And same goes for a guy like Justin Fields as well. He signed a bridge contract. He's changing teams. Not a huge team investment into him. These guys that could scream up the draft board into QB1 range, again, if you do draft a player like this and you want them to maybe have a super high ceiling, remember the reason for guys going up the board when I showed you that results table, the reason they usually rise a ton in value is fantasy performance. So you can actually kind of look at their redraft projection and think, okay, maybe they're going to have a great season this year and they're still young or whatever the case is, and they'll just scream up the dynasty draft boards. And for me, I look at some of the redraft projections of Baker Mayfield, of Trevor Lawrence, now with Liam Cohen, with Dak Prescott being a little bit undervalued because he's a little bit older. He has a great fantasy projection still. Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson, because they run, could scream up draft boards because even though they have a little bit job security question marks, if they run and have good breakout seasons for their teams, then they would obviously be huge value gainers, but they are definitely risky, like I pointed out. And then value gainers because they're young is also important here. So if JJ McCarthy, for example, who's never started a game in the NFL, were to go out there and have a quarterback 11 season, he would probably fire up the draft boards too. Same goes for Bryce Young. And same goes for Bryce Young and Michael Penix because those guys are both still young as well. So here's my takeaways from looking at this exercise, because it's more anecdotal, it's more macro-based game theory here. But my takeaway is this. I 100% believe that this is as good of a top 22 quarterbacks as we've seen. It's evidenced by the ADP that they're going 72nd overall or earlier, meaning you have to spend like a 6th round pick or earlier to get those top quarterbacks. And in my time making content, I can't imagine quarterback 15 through 22 specifically being this solid of projections. Like the guys that I was just talking about there, I think there's plenty of us that all believe in Baker Mayfield, in Trevor Lawrence, in Michael Penix, in Jared Goff, in JJ McCarthy, in Dak Prescott, in Bryce Young, in Tua Tagovailoa. Like there is a lot of very, very solid quarterback 15 to 22 guys. A couple years ago, like quarterback 15 was like Daniel Jones, who we weren't even certain was good. And then after that, it was older guys who weren't going to gain any value. We have a lot of young dudes there because of those 6 first-round quarterbacks, and we had Bryce Young and CJ Stroud the year before that. So, ergo, my takeaway for this video is we don't have to get our quarterbacks before they run out anymore. Back 2-3 years ago when you guys were, watching our content, we kept telling you, make sure to get your quarterbacks early. In the first 2 rounds or 2 to the first 3 rounds, you probably wanted to prioritize getting your quarterback 1 and getting your quarterback 2, because after, Justin Herbert was off the board or whatever, it was a wasteland at that position. My strategy in drafts, of course, is to prioritize stud quarterbacks, but the panic that we used to have, if I don't get my quarterback here in the first round, I may not get one. That doesn't really exist like it did in 2022 and 2023. This influx of the 6 first-round quarterbacks, of Bryce Young, of CJ Stroud, plus the 2025 quarterbacks that we're going to get in here is definitely going to help with that position being a little bit deeper, and it's also going to inherently reduce the overall trade value on the market of the quarterback position, because if you're the type of person that goes, I'm going to draft 5 quarterbacks because I'm going to hold my league mates hostage and sell them some of my quarterbacks, well, you're going to look at their teams and they're going to have much better quarterbacks than they would have had in 2022 and in 2023. So think about how quarterback felt shallow back then and think about how it doesn't feel that shallow anymore. The 2021 quarterback class was a whiff, right? Trevor Lawrence was the only guy that ended up being a hit from that class. 2022, also a whiff. There was no good quarterbacks in that class other than Brock Purdy, who was a 7th round pick. Malik Willis missed. All those dudes missed. Kenny Pickett. So this year, you lose that scarcity mindset, at least in the quarterback 15 to 22 range, knowing that, hey, maybe I actually go with CeeDee Lamb in the first round this year instead of feeling like I need to get a quarterback. Maybe I actually go with Bijan Robinson in the second round because I don't feel like I need to get a quarterback here, and you could aim to get your QB2 and maybe even your QB3 before Tua Tagovailoa is off the board. In my opinion, there's no need to risk it with Anthony Richardson types or Darnold types or Geno types or Justin Fields types unless they come at a significant value. The strategy that I'm deploying, and we're going to have our listener league draft here very, very soon. If you guys want to join that listener league, that is down below in the pinned comment. You can join for free. You get 1 ballot for a chance to win that. But if you're a site subscriber, you get up to 5 ballots for a chance to get a spot into that. This might also shed some light on maybe you wait, but you don't wait too long. That's kind of what my strategy is going to be. I'm like, okay, I got my first quarterback, let's say round 2 or 3. It's Kyler Murray or whatever. In round 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to see where the quarterback kind of lands, and I'll strike then. I'm not going to, reach on a quarterback because I feel like I won't get one. Only take swings on the Justin Fields, the Richardson, the Darnold types if they fall significantly. You don't want to take swings on those guys at value. You want to take a swing on them if they fall significantly because, like I said, they're the most likely guys to lose value on the open market. So, and this also might shed some light on not wanting to risk it with the 2025 class either, because why would you spend the 105 to the 108 in your rookie draft on Shedeur Sanders just because he got drafted, let's say 9th overall to the New Orleans Saints, when you could very easily trade that 106 that you're about to spend on Shedeur Sanders for Baker Mayfield if you're a contender, or Dak Prescott if you're a contender, or you could sell it for J.J. McCarthy or Bryce Young or Michael Penix if you're a rebuilding team. So based on my grades, I think Cam Ward is the only guy worthy of going in this range, quarterback 15 to 22. He'll be ranked amongst those guys for me. That's in the 2025 class, even if Jackson Dart gets first-round capital and Shedeur Sanders gets first-round capital. The one guy that could maybe get in there is Jalen Milroe just because of the rushing upside. So that was my takeaway from this whole kind of like study. How to handle the quarterback position in startup drafts this year, I think, is really, really an important thing, because in Superflex leagues, the quarterback position kind of dictates the rest of your strategy. You're able to go a little bit more wide receiver heavy, running back heavy this year than you were in previous years, and that's definitely a blessing that you can do that. So take this advice into startups. Again, if you want to join one, our listener league submission form is down below. 1 ballot for those of you guys that are free submissions. Site subscribers, if you're a monthly, you get 2 ballots. If you're an annual motherflocker, you get up to 5 ballots there. We are drawing names on Saturday, a couple days from now, so definitely make sure Saturday, March 15th, you get those Google form filled out. If you are a site subscriber and you want to be in the league, you have to fill out that form to do so. Dynasty rankings on the site are also up to date as far as free agency goes along. We've been updating them as we go. Rookie Guide version 1, 30-plus prospects, written up, graded, player cards, all that stuff is live on the site as well. Over the next month, the prospect model and Rookie Guide version 2, which will have up to 60 prospects in this class, will be live with Combine, with Pro Day updates. We're adding another 30 prospects, like I said, to the guide for a total of 60 plus. Definitely, you want to be a Flock Fantasy site subscriber, and right now is the perfect time because you get a chance to be in a league with me and Danny and potentially some other creators in the Flock League. Haven't really talked about that with them, but we're going to run it by them. We can review your team over on the site. You can purchase a team review. You get discounts being a site subscriber. We can answer questions for you, do a buy, sell, hold report for you where we give you 5 buys, 5 sells, and 5 holds personalized to your league settings, to your league market. Code FSC subscribers, like I said, will get discounts on those a la carte products as well. So tons to do over on the site. You can use our My Teams feature, our trade calculator, for free. Check it out down below in the link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, and I will talk to you very soon.